Hi, Christine. So good to see you, friend.
Good to see you.
So, I have been pestering you with questions about many of your ideas, but also, in particular, this tweet about little groups of 3 to 4 friends and what that means and what your experience is of that. And for some reason, I noticed this morning, I'm like, oh, I'm 34 now. I'm 34 as a couple of weeks ago, and that's the same numbers as in that tweet. It's like, huh, interesting. Um, but I think this is coming from the fact that historically I've really optimized for one-on-one friendships and one-on-one conversations, and like all pretty much all of the conversations you and I have ever had have been one-on-one,
Hmm.
with some exceptions, but like by and large. And then so the idea this feels like a whole new friend move unlock where I could like make three to like little groups of 3 to 4. So I'm
Yeah.
so curious about your experience of it and how you think about it. And like, I think there's some particular details we were getting into that will probably surface at some point. But um,
Yeah. Yeah. I can sort of, I think it was sort of also a friendship move unlock for me because um it actually took a while for me to kind of be like, oh, this is a thing that is happening and great. But I remember when I first moved to San Francisco, and this is like before I was even online. I was having a period in my life where I was really struggling to make friends. And um, what I noticed is that I had many like one-on-one friendships and none of them knew each other and none of them would even like get along with each other in my opinion. It was just like, oh, I have this one friend from college and I have this one friend from work and I have this one friend and we would like go out to get dinner. And then I would be like, it just felt like I never was in a group, like a friend group setting. And that was my experience back then. And then I think there's kind of this middle period where like I know what it feels like to be a part of a community because I've been a part of the climbing community. And then I was like, I went online and I joined this like whole internet network of pre-existing friends that were already hanging out. But from that network, I then like started to have these friends. And it felt similar to college where like because we were already from the same social context, we sort of had similar um like um temperament or ideas or things that we were like would like to talk about. But what was cool is they also knew of each other. And so then it became very easy to be like, oh, do you know this person? Like, you know them too. And like, maybe we could all hang out. And so I wasn't doing this intentionally. I was just like hanging out on the internet, making friends. Well, things were happening organically, but I just noticed like, oh wait, like I have these friends and I think you would like this friend too. And then I would make a little bit of like a concerted like effort to just be like, oh, have you talked to this person? Or like I would just send accounts to people and be like, I think this account is cool and like just like I think I easily like hype people. So I'm like, oh, this account and this person, and like here is something that they said that I think is like so cool, and I think you would be interested too. So it felt like a mixture of sending an article I really liked online and introducing my friend, because and it was like this 1-2 of like, isn't this thing so cool? And the person who wrote it is like someone that I am a fan of. Um, and yeah, it happened very organically, but I was traveling around a lot too. And I noticed that when I was in a new city, like if I have one friend, it's okay. But if I had two friends that were friends with each other, it was suddenly uh like a friend group. And it was very easy from to go from like the difference, like if it's just me and one person, it's almost like a friend date. Like we're going out to dinner, we're having like a lot of deep one-on-one conversations. If it and once it goes to three friends, suddenly it's a much more like social kind of experience. And it can easily become a bigger social experience with like everyone brings like another friend, like a +1, and then it becomes like a friend group. And that was really nice because it felt like I had friends in the city, and I didn't just have one friend. I had like a friend group. Um, and I will say I don't say make a group of 5 to 6 friends. Like I think that's fine, but I think you start to lose the intimacy and like the vulnerability and the connection. So that's where it began, where I was noticing, oh, if I travel to a new city and I have two to like, it's a group of 3 to 4. So for me, it's like 2 to 3 friends that know each other, then I'm fine. Like
Hmm.
I'm uh very comfortable socially if I have that.
Hmm.
So then I noticed this and tweeted about it and have really stuck with it. And like I feel like um the this little group of friends in a particular city is now like they serve as my social home in like cities around the world. And I because if it's just one friend and they're busy, then it's gone. But if there's two, then the odds are higher. And like it's like the beginning of like a network. Um so yeah, that's where like the inspiration came from.
Hmm. Do you remember when you formed your first 3 to 4 friend group and yeah, when that was? What the circumstances were?
I think it was Katrina and Pranab who are my friends and they're very online.
Hmm.
Uh it was very early on. But I had met Kat, and then I had met them independently, and they had met each other independently, and we all sort of found out that we're all friends with each other, and then we tried hanging out, and it was like it was too much, almost like how fast we were talking.
Oh.
um, but the dynamic was interesting with the three of us, and it was new. It was different from my dynamic with Pranav and my dynamic with Kat. It was like,
Hmm.
um, but it was like very enjoyable. And from this like three friends, we hosted so many picnics. Like we became this like core group, like a little co-hosting group that would host a lot because um, Pranav was we were all into hosting and Kat was very extroverted and so it just happened organically. But I think that was my summer of hosting a lot of picnics and a lot of that came from this like group of friends.
Hmm.
Last year we hosted a retreat in Mexico City, and then our other friend also joined, Melody, and like she was also like a major hostess. So um, I think that was my first grouping, and I actually until you asked me just now, it hadn't occurred to me that that was like one of my groups because it's not very clearly like delineated in my head of like these are my groups of 3 to 4 friends. Like I just um, have like little groups of them,
Hmm.
often because they all know each other, and I also make an effort to always introduce my friends to each other. And then like the groupings are always surprising of like who hits it off with who and who kind of like bounces off of who. Um, so yeah.
If you had to guess, how many of these groups have you formed over the years?
I actually okay, I lied. I think I had a group of 3 to 4 friends from college too. Like I
Hmm.
had a few little groupings. So are you saying like ever in my life or like from
Ever in your life?
oh God. I don't know.
What is it that you're feeling as I ask you that question?
There's so many like combinations
Ah,
that
yeah.
oh,
So many is the answer.
a lot.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Um,
25 to 30.
yes, Queen, get it.
No.
Inspo right there.
So many combinations. It's like, yeah, like we're all friends.
Right.
And then you take a friend group and you take 3 of them and that's like a little grouping.
Totally. Um, have you developed any kind of taste or sense or sensibility for what makes for a good group of 3 to 4?
Um something. Okay, sometimes if there's a couple,
Hmm.
then it's easy to
Yeah.
have like a little it I mean,
Like
as long
third
as
wheel
you
or
don't
double date.
feel like a third wheel,
Uh,
or double date, yeah, or like um or just like a couple and two friends, like I think like a couple is a really strong social unit. Like when
mhm,
I was in a relationship, I noticed that hosting was a lot easier as a couple because you already have your second
mhm.
joiner, you know. You already have like a built-in co-host. So that can be nice. Other than that, it's like um as long as one of the ties is really strong, I think the other can be like if I'm good friends with as long as like a majority, well, yeah, as long as there are some strong friendship like ties, not everyone has to be close to each other. Like there can be, let's say I'm good friends with you and like one other person and you and the other person aren't as close, it can still work and you guys might become closer because we're always chatting through this group chat or something.
Mhm. Mhm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you ever get the feeling like if you're considering one of these groups like, ooh, that would work or ooh, that definitely wouldn't work?
Um, yes, but in my mind, it's a lot less about the grouping and more about the individual connections.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like if I didn't, if anyone in the group doesn't like the other, then like it's probably going to not work as well. Uh,
Hmm.
Something I've also observed, this was a college one, created like a, I felt like we had a strong friend group of four people, but then um once I stopped, like, there was some drama that happened and then it just totally fell apart. But what I realized after it fell apart is that I had strong friendships with everyone in that group, but they had much weaker ties to each other.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, it like didn't survive that well. The, yeah, mm, it felt like I had been part of the glue that had pulled that group together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So I feel like, to be blunt, I think I'm excellent at almost like guaranteeing that I can have a really, really good one-on-one conversation with someone. Um, like a really good one. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, there are some exceptions. Certain qualities, if people have them, it's like very hard to have a good conversation with certain kinds of people. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, anyway, as soon as it becomes three or four, or certainly as you say, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10,
Mm-hmm.
my fluidity with conversation really polarizes where it's like, and I've written about this extensively about the difficulties I have with group conversations. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
very limited subset of group conversations where I can like similarly guarantee that I'll have a really good conversation, but it's not as broad. And sometimes those are even better than one-on-one conversations, but it's rarer or harder for me. And so I wonder, I guess with that all that surfaced, I wonder if you notice what contributes to really generative, wholesome, fun, enlivening 3 to 4 person conversations?
I think it is a different dynamic, especially in the beginning. So I think with a one-on-one conversation or interaction, you can pretty quickly go very deep, right? Like you could like sob into the other's shoulder. I think you can get there in a group of three to four. Um, but the larger the number, the harder that gets. And that's why I don't enjoy as much the like group of 5 to 8 dinner at somewhere at a restaurant because it tends to be less intimate and vulnerable in a large like as the crowd size goes up.
Hmm.
I think with a group of 3 like conditions, a lot of it does go back to like just everyone's individual relationships to one another. Like how comfortable are you with each person in this group?
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like yeah, it's like it's sort of like the dynamic not always, but like probably starts at like the safety level of like the lowest um common denominator.
Hmm.
Um where it's just like whoever like it'll start at this safest level, but it can increase if some of the people are like closer friends and start guiding like more conversation, like helping like opening up. I think that can um lead to the whole group like bonding more with each other. Um, I think a lot of things are organic. So it depends on the grouping of people. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, we're having a lot of like fun, like jokes and like riffing, and we're going out and about and encountering adventures and like experiencing things, and that leads to like this feeling of having lived through something together. And I do think it's like really fun to do something in a group of like 3 to 4, like more than
Mm.
2 sometimes, because there's like a lot more joking around that can happen, right? Like it's not just passing a ball back and forth. There's like some more surprising variations that can happen with people just like quipping and um yeah, there's like more like personality to draw from. Um, there's that, and then I think also there's much more of like a feeling of balancing of like different perspectives, and like one person might be going through a hard time, and then you all share like your own perspective, and um, that can be more of like, oh, you're having like a heart to heart in like a group setting, like a group of 3 is where I usually like 3 or 4, but like 3 is easier because it's smaller, right? So then it's like, oh, now you're like, um, yeah, like, um, I think as long as there's this container or like feeling of safety, so I guess psychological safety is really important for having deeper conversations in this group. But like, if everyone feels safe and everyone likes each other, then I don't find that much difficulty in having heart to hearts or like deeper conversations. And I do think one part of it is context, right? Are you guys in sharing I don't know, are you guys all living in the same space for some gathering, or are you guys at a restaurant? Because that makes a big difference in what is said and like what is divulged. What else? Your question is like, what are the conditions make for like a thriving conversation?
Yeah.
Um, Safety, closeness, humor, experiences, um, comfort. Like if you guys are all somewhere that's sort of new and you guys are each other's like chosen like tribe, like we're all at a somewhat like foreign to a social setting, then we group together and like turn to each other for comfort and talk about like deeper things. If someone is going through something and you guys are like this the next closest circle of support, like I think these are things. But I have never like, if I do anything intentionally, it's like introduce my friends to one another. Like I
Hmm.
like I'm like, oh, you should meet this, you should meet this person. Like I'm just always like doing that automatically. The actual I'm always surprised who hits it off with who. And then after that, there's no creation of a group of three. It's just like when the three of us are together, does it uh is it fun?
Hmm.
um and I will say if it is fun, or if I do feel like, oh, this is like kind of like a juicy space, then I will like put us in a group chat and I'll be like, hey, like let's chat because I also get tired of telling the same like people texting people like I made Slack because I like wanted all my friends to get the news instead of me texting a bunch of people. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'll pull people in like if I know someone and I think I really like them, but I don't know them that well yet, then I will also like include them in like I don't know, events that I host or conversations, or I'll tell them, oh, I talked with this mutual friend, like try to um, just like strengthen those ties.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm kind of
Hat.
curious, like,
Hmm.
uh, what it feels like happens when you go from like one on one to like a group of three.
Uh, well, that's a little hard to answer actually, because I think it's much more common that I go from one to like many. And so I think 3 to 4 really is a sweet spot for me that's like pretty underexplored, where I just like have done very little of what we're talking about. So
Mm.
it's as if like I've been using the alphabet to write English for years, and then I just found out about the letter H, and I was like, "What? You can use H?" And you're like, "There's this H over here," and I'm like, "What?" You're like, "What?" And you're like, "What's it like for you to use H?" And I'm like, "I haven't used H that much." Um, I think that is overly simplistic in that since I've been digesting this for the last few weeks, it's like really been very constantly on my mind, as I've said to you.
Yeah.
Um, it feels salient at this time. I made a map of some of the nascent groups that I think actually are existing or that I'm
Mm.
creating that are like important to me. Like for example, just yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, I made a group chat. I can't believe we didn't do this earlier, years ago, but I made a group chat for the 3 other gentlemen that I took Bodhisattva vows with. Like all of
Yeah.
us have strong one-to-one connections, and we like are a group of 4, but we've never had a group chat.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so it's like, well, that was in my life already. Or also importantly, I think it's worth comparing and contrasting with like basically the department model that I've been using at the Service Guild. And that's like kind of overlapping in some ways, but kind of not. And in fact, I've been running into a lot of challenges that are like what you're saying is kind of clarifying for me of like, oh, that's why we've been running into this or that. And it feels like a kind of and then similarly, I see what you're doing. Like I think what your example is doing is kind of clarifying for me blind spots that I have and weaknesses that the Service Guild has, such that I can work on them. And I kind of see the possibility for you doing like really cool things that you're not necessarily doing right now, but that are like so
Ooh.
close and so available.
Like what?
Um, well, this morning we were messaging about like bottom up versus top down, and I think that's
Hmm.
a really valuable frame here. And my tendency
Like more
probably
top
is to like
down.
top down thinking, and I know how to do that in a way that it's actually likely to succeed and not just
Hmm.
naive. Um, but there are benefits to bottom up, and I've had multiple people tell me over the years like, "Oh, you should be doing this more bottom up," and that's feedback I've gotten multiple times. And I think you're playing to that strength of like, oh, just see what happens and emerge. And I do resonate with that in other domains, but I think there's a little bit of structure goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think like I've been thinking about if I wanted to host like a larger gathering, for example, I should just like delegate a team. Like I should like
Hmm.
pick a team and be like, these are your roles. Do you like them? I think I would uh instead of being like, what do you guys think? So I've been thinking about
What do you
this.
guys think? What is this question that you ask people? I'm mocking myself, but I could stand to ask that more often. Um,
um yeah. And just like that people, it's kind of like the whole benevolent dictator idea, right?
right.
Gathering of like, oh, it's okay if you just like tell someone, hey, I want you to be my co-host and I want you to take care of the Airbnb. But I've also experienced people reacting negatively to this, which is why I think I'm a little bit like, I think I err a lot stronger on like like I like it being co-created, which is also like lower effort on the host and it's just like everyone's doing things together. But I definitely see the argument for just doing things, just organizing and just like taking control. Um, but
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, to zoom out a bunch, I feel like you have developed a really strong playbook of what works for you, not only with friendships, but with hosting and with
mm,
doing projects and a bunch of other things that we have as common interests. And
mhm.
then I've also developed my own playbooks, and the Service Guild has developed its own playbooks. And like, I'm less interested in like convincing you to do something the way I do it, or you convincing me to do it the way I do it. More just be like, hey, what's your playbook? Like, what's working for you? Why do you do it that
Mhm.
way? And then like there are
I love
things that you've done that are so obvious to you that literally never occurred to me, and
that.
I'm sure vice versa as well.
Yeah. I think when we just talked, it like occurred to me that one great practice that I do very liberally, not just with groups of 3 to 4 people, but in general, I make a lot of group chats. I
Hmm.
make group
Oh
chats
my
like
God.
all the time.
I avoid group chats at all costs and leave them when people put me in them.
I also leave group chats when people put me in them, but I make my own group chats so
Right.
much. Um, and I typically make them at the 3 to 4 person
Oh,
level. I don't like big group chats because I'm very quickly overwhelmed. And I don't like how it's like one big channel, which is why I like Slack because it's like a million small channels that are relevant. Um, and I hate that most like social media platforms have a bad muting mechanism. So yeah, but yeah, I make group chats. If you have roommates, make a group chat for your unit, you know. If like my family has a group chat, I think this we have a great group chat. So like maybe this is where I started from. Like my little group of 3 to 4 friends is like my like family group chat where we like chat here and there. And if I sense a group happening, I make it a group chat so we can all just like chat together. But yeah.
that's
I should make a
crazy.
thread. I should tweet that. I had never thought about like, oh yeah, part of making the group is making a group chat.
Uh-huh. It's funny. I remember Bia telling me a while ago, I had posted about how much I hated group chats, and she was just like, it sounds like you need more like pretty small group chats. And I was like, what? There are small group chats? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really like it does that actually does feel even more like a letter H to me that I've just like never used. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good.
Hmm. Has your thinking about little groups of 3 to 4 ever changed in really noticeable ways where you're like, oh, this or oh, that, and something got unlocked or clarified?
Like I think, well, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what you're pointing to, but one thing that I realized, I think while I am like bottom up approach, I also really like systems thinking. And I was like, oh, like, uh, it just felt like a strong sense of like, um, crossing some kind of threshold. Me, maybe twice. The first time was I had been sort of on a friend tour of sorts, like made all these new friend groups. Um, and I felt this like clicking of like a network into place. And I was like, oh, I have friends in all of these cities around the world, like a lot of the cities around the world, like a lot of the major ones that I would visit. I have friends now. Like I have a friend group that, and they hang out without me. That was very important that they hang out without me because that means they're a sustainable group, right? Um, and then, so that was number one, like the like feeling of like a network established. And then the second big revelation, which happened like this last month, is I feel like I crossed some like critical threshold of like, and all of these groups of 3 to 4 friends, the groups themselves know each other. Like everyone knows each other. And I passed some kind of like minimum threshold of like strong ties in this social fabric area. And I was like, oh, I actually feel comfortable almost like not worrying about this at all anymore. Like I have introduced, I had made friends, they all know each other. Now they're all like getting along and talking to each other in this like self-sustaining way. And I feel like yeah, like I just like my friends are now friends with each other. Like a lot of them are friends, like and they at least know of each other and are like on friendly terms. Like not all of them are close friends, but there's like enough like happening there that um I was like, I don't know that I like all my friends have been introduced to each other. Like a lot of them have been introduced. And so um I'm now in like definitely going into like my creative projects zone, right? But those are probably the two big points that stood out to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, maybe a third one is also happening now where all of these like some of these friends uh it's so funny because I told you about Kat and Pranav. I didn't even think about it, but they were like my co-hosting team. We threw so many picnics together. It was like a very fertile ground. And like I had a really nice time organically. I wasn't even like close to one of the girls before, but we ended up hanging out a lot. And now we have like, it starts off, we were like joking about like, what if like I would do a project with you or like I would host something with you and we were kind of just like
Hmm.
throwing this around and then it like evolved like this project kind of emerged and now we're playing with it and like I don't think we know exactly where it's going to go because I originally was excited about co-hosting something, but I don't think that was exactly what was in the group field for like everyone's desires. And so now what's emerging is more of like a artifact, like a documentation, playbook manual, something like that. So we'll see. But like so the third like big revelation was probably like, oh, the 3 to 4 friends is a great space for collaboration.
Hmm.
Like, why didn't I think about that?
Uh-huh.
You're like, of course, Christine, that's why.
Uh-huh. Well, because to flip it, it's like part of where my playbook has come from is from starting like, hey, I want to do projects. Who am I going to do projects with? How are we going to do it? I already know
Mhm.
what I want to work on. I'm going to do the project, and it's like, who will work with me, and how are we going to make it work? And so it's like starting from, I'm going to
Mhm.
do something with love and kindness. Like we're doing this, you know?
Yeah. I will say, like, I have my own projects that I have historically had a hard time collaborating because I didn't like trust the collaborator or like I just had too strong of a vision to invite in other perspectives. And I still have those and I'm still working on those. Mostly like my film stuff. I'm like very like I want to do this.
Right.
But like with the collaborations that are emerging right now, it feels like none of us know the end. Like none of us have like this thing that must like I have like very strong commitment and motivation and like I have my own idea of what I think could be really interesting, but it feels like there's ample space to sort of massage it into place. And I don't think that like I could do it without my partners. So um yeah, it feels like a different feeling whereas like my films were just like very much like my world. I'm like total control, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
But I do feel like I've unlocked collaboration as well.
Christine discovers collaboration.
You remember when like we first did the give your gift and I was like, I'm gonna make a film and you were like, what about collaboration? And I was like, I'm gonna set up my tripod and film a bit of myself by myself in the park.
Alone time and call it alone time.
I was like, I want to play with myself.
Yeah. Which is fair. And in fact, I mean, we have learned a lot about how to support people now. And so like that makes a lot more sense than collaboration, I think, in retrospect. But
That's really
um
funny.
it is really funny. Have you noticed anything as that unlock has happened about what is there a difference between groups of 3 to 4 that are just chilling or like enjoying each other's company and ones that seem to emerge as like wanting to collaborate actively and what sets those ones up for success?
I think even the ones that are just chilling will sometimes go on trips together. I think like hanging out, going on trips tends to happen. Um, I think some friend groups aren't are just trying to hang out. Like I think it's actually not even friend groups. It's some people are just trying to chill. And
Mm-hmm.
so it depends on the makeup of the friend group. If like people are more inclined, like they're more like yeah, they're just more inclined to pursue projects or want to build things, then that energy will affect the overall group. So, yeah, I think like if you have a group of three and one person is like, why are we doing all this? We could just not, right? Like that affects the overall make like
Totally.
energy. Yeah, versus if the group has like a person who's like, oh, I'm really excited about this and like kind of like it's like an energetic collaboration. So
Mm-hmm.
um I think that's how I've seen it. Yeah. I'm trying to think about the friends where nothing happens. I don't know. I tend to have a lot of like energy for things like this. So I'm usually like very excited to do. If I'm not excited, I dip. And I think that happens a lot too. And so what can happen is I think yeah, there are some friend groups where you talk about things and never do something. Um
Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. Uh-huh.
but I think part of what's nice about a group like manifesting something into existence is that there's almost a group safety net that emerges that can be more safe than an individual's fears or insecurities.
Mm.
That's what I'm finding really lovely right now about collaborations. Is like I feel safer to pursue something that I'm interested in with a group because between us we have like the squad wealth or something
Mm-hmm.
of like intelligence and creativity and momentum, all these things that feels like it's more attainable to go out and get something. Whereas on my own it's very much like self-reliant and
Mm.
like I'm not sure if I can get there and um yeah.
I'm hearing that as it's easier for everyone involved to basically have secure attachment with a well-knit group than it is with just a dyad.
mm, as opposed to a dyad. um I think I mean it's more wealth, right? It's more
Mm.
collective wealth. Um, I think once you get into bad vibes and bad dynamics, yeah, like insecure attachment, I think that probably does lead to worse. It's like group projects, right? It's like worse projects.
Mm.
So I do think a lot of it comes down to psychological safety and
Hmm.
like closeness of friendship and trust in one another and sort of like assumption of good intentions.
Hmm.
So that even if someone is somewhat like bailing or dropping out, that you can be attuned enough to sense it and sort of like make room for like that or like make plans for that. And also that it's communicated and like yeah, I definitely think like it so much is about the safety.
Hmm.
Um,
I know what you mean by wealth here, but I would love it if you would put it into words.
yeah. Um, I'll give it, okay, I'll give the first example I'll give is not about a group of 3 to 4, but this is something I noticed in the community in Kentucky, the climbing community. My friend visited me in San Francisco. And he was like, I would not make it here because he's like this broke climbing dirtbag dude. And he's like, if I mess up somehow and I am broke and I am out of a place to stay, at the Red River Gorge, he can always go be like, "Hey, Eric, can I crash at this place at your place tonight? Or can I like work? Can I pick up some shifts here?" And like, there's enough community like safety that he can always find someone to help him. And in San Francisco, he's like, "I don't know who I would go to. There's no safety net there." So like within this community at the Red, there's kind of an understanding that people go through like ups and downs, especially like the dirt bags. Like people are like having a very alternative lifestyle. And so because people know each other and uh, have some sense of like shared um, they like just care about each other. You can like if any individual is hitting a rough time, they can lean on the others to hold them up until they're strong. And then when they're strong and someone else is having a rough time, they can hold someone up too. Um, so there's that's what I saw at the Red. And then in terms of like squad wealth, I think about like the most extreme example is like I think about pooling your money together to like buy some property or something. I haven't reached that yet. So what I see more is like um, when I think about like this project that I'm working on right now, it's like I noticed that in our first meeting, the other two were kind of like down. Like they were like we checked in and they were like, yeah, I don't know, like I'm working on this and this and this. And I was like clearly the most excited to
Hmm.
like do this. I was like, oh well, I'm really excited and I've already done a brainstorm on it. Like here's my fig jam, like and like that so I brought like excitement and energy, right? Which was needed as like initiation energy. And they got really excited about it. By the
Hmm.
end of the session, they were like, oh, and like they were ripping off of it. And then my other collaborator, like she is so insightful. And like I have a lot of these thoughts, but she can sort of she has a lot of like just like wisdom and knowledge and just like I think she just um pulls out more insights or like kernels than I would have done myself
Hmm.
in my I did my brainstorm, but like she really brought some like interesting ideas out of it. And then the third one is like she has like she's like so like there. Like she's I feel like her presence just um instead of the person that is like kind of dropping out or like removing energy, she always like comes with like more enthusiasm and encouragement to be like, oh, and here are some thoughts that I brought in. Like she's contributing and showing up, and she has like a lot more practical things. Like she has like a Zoom link, and like she like sets things up. So it feels like we all just have our own strengths, and it comes together in a really nice way. that is leading to like this feeling of abundance and like resource. Um, Another example is just like network. Like, does anybody know this person? Oh, I know this person. Does anybody have a place to crash? Oh, my friend has a place to crash. Like, you have a party with three people and you all invite like two friends and it's like a party, like that kind of dynamic.
Hmm.
I think that's what I think of with squad wealth.
Hmm.
What about you? I'm kind of curious.
What do I think about with squad wealth?
Yeah.
Something that's been very cute for me recently is just like what a blessing it is to have a crew.
Mhm.
I think this is really the thing. I think my life is very wealthy in dimensions that really matter to me that are not necessarily economically measurable. Um, like, you know, from other dimensions, I'm a wandering poor person. I mean, you can see how much I make on Patreon per month. It's like I think I make like 1,500, 1,600 a month right now on average on Patreon. So like from a GDP economic traditional perspective, I'm like under the poverty line in terms of income. Uh, actually it's a bit more because I have other streams. But point is like, I'm not from traditional measures. Like my mom, if she was still alive, would be like biting her nails. But in other ways that really matter to me, I'm like incredibly wealthy, and I think like basically a billionaire compared to a lot of people, and you are too. We're both billionaires in these respects. And in particular, one way that I feel like my most valuable asset in these like non-measurable ways is the fact that I have a crew. And so the Service Guild is all people that I know pretty well from years of working together and like building trust, and they all have the first thing I always think of at this scale is like they have integrity. They're people who if they say they're going to be on a Zoom call, they'll be there. If they say they're going to email someone, they're going to email someone. If they if I ask them to do something, if they say they're going to do something, they will follow through. If something changes, they will let me know. They're
Mhm.
like very high
Yeah.
integrity. And they also all are like very clearly like love people or curiosity people or empowerment
Mhm.
people where like I would say part of their vow involves the thing that that department is trying to do in such a clear, palpable way that I'm like, oh, this is one of the people, like very good. And so now, I mean, we're still pretty early in building the service guild. It's about 3 years old at this point by my count. So it's like a 3-year-old kid. Um,
Mhm.
but having those connections with people that I know that well that I'm going to be building trust with for the indefinite future about things that we all care about is like the most precious thing to me. And I don't know, I still don't think other people realize how valuable that is. And I think it's underrated. Like, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I think a lot about Visa's advice, like show up, don't die, don't quit. And I think if we show up and we don't die and we don't quit, to me, it's almost guaranteed that on the scale of 30 to 40 years, the Service Guild will have had like an absolutely enormous historic impact that
Mhm.
is wildly outsized for the fact that I think at that point, if I had to guess, we'll have 40 or 50 or 60 people at most. Like that's still an entirely small, very, very, very small crew to have like human history scale impacts. I could be wrong, but that's just like if I look at my cards and how I'm playing them and where it stretches out to, I'm like pretty sure that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm open to be wrong. That's fine. But that's wealth to me,
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
form of wealth.
Yeah. We are very blessed.
Yes, definitely. I'm so curious. I'm remembering very vividly. I think the first in-person conversation we had was in San Francisco. Do you remember this?
Mhm.
Um, and
And I had like no friends at that point.
well, you made a new
No,
friend in
I
the time,
had friends.
and
I
you
had
and
friends,
you were
but
friends
I
with
didn't
Pranav
have
at that point too, right?
what?
You were like initial stages of being friends with Pranav at that point
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We had just
Just
started.
met.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that I advocate so much for groups of like 3 to 4 friends because I'm not at all like a squad mindset. person.
I'm gonna pill you on this one of these years. Uh, yeah.
And when I say squad mindset, I think about the people who only have one squad, and that's what
Yeah, right.
like you always are in this group of 4 to 5. That's how I think about squad. I don't know what for some it is. It's like and like they like go out together and do everything together. And I'm just very fluid. Like I have
Mm,
many like friends, and so I just think of myself as having like a lot of friends, and they happen to come and go in different combinations, permutations. But like I'm not like one to be like this is it's just me and these 3 people, right? Like it's like I like having a lot of dynamism in how I socialize and collaborate.
mm. One way we get that through the Service Guild, like the Service Guild definitely is a little bit more towards squad side of things, but um, everyone besides me is like part-time and is volunteering, and I'm the
Mm,
only one that works full-time on the Service Guild, at least right now, and everyone else has other projects they work on and other communities they're connected to and like other things that they're involved and other friend groups. And to me, that um, there's a kind of I really hope and pray that that has an effect of whatever's working for us will spread to their other communities, and whatever's working in other communities will spread back to the guild, and then there'll be this like positive
yeah,
feedback loop. But and then in my own life, I also just am I'm like always connection maxing. I'm like talking
yeah,
to lots and lots and lots of people, corresponding with lots of people, even if I'm not collaborating with them, even if they're not in the service guild. And so I think you do need a very large ecosystem and lots of context within the larger ecosystem. But part of the reason for this conversation also, as far as I'm concerned, is like Andrew Rose has been using this phrase like the network for Teapot instead of Teapot. It's like let's call it the network. And I like that. And to me, the network is kind of both growing in scale and growing in self-awareness at this time, where it's like not just getting bigger, but it's also like becoming more self-aware of what's happening and kind of congealing in specific ways. And I see a lot of trends of that I could point to. Um, but at that feels really, frankly, historic to me. uh,
yeah.
yeah. Do you notice things like that?
I think it is growing.
Hmm.
I think it has uh yeah, I think it's definitely growing and scaling and breaking containment in some sense. And I also think the word teapot is like because it's grown so much, no longer makes that much sense. Um I think I like the network too, but it's so like porous
Hmm.
that it's kind of like, well, I went to this pop-up city. I went to Edge Esmeralda, and like everyone on there was on Twitter, but most of them had not heard of Teapot, you know?
Hmm.
But like they're connected because that's how it works.
Hmm.
And a lot of my like in-person people that I meet in New York kind of know. Like there's like
Hmm.
the memes have spread, and it's like weird, and it's definitely a scale, and I'm very curious like maybe we're hitting like the next domino in
Hmm.
that like golden age meme.
I kind
Um
of think we are, yeah. But
that's
it's also
very
not just
exciting.
like, yeah, that's a good way to frame it because I really think it's not like there's been scaling happening for years. Like it's been getting bigger for a long time, in fact. But I think there's like a phase shift that's happening of self-awareness of the network as the network.
Hmm. Um I'm not yeah, maybe. I think uh I don't know. I've always been aware of like how lucky I am to have made all these friends, and like it was newer when I started, and now it's not as novel. Now it's like, oh, everyone's just made friends
Hmm.
through social media. And but also I think, yeah, like people have heard of it. Like it's definitely like people are aware of
I mean, I
this
think you're interpreting what I
dense
mean a little bit
area
differently.
of ideas. Okay.
Like, I don't mean like, do people know about Teapot or know about the network? I mean, the network as like an egregore or a sentient being is
Hmm.
becoming self-aware in the sense of like conscious. Uh,
Hmm.
not, I mean, that's more metaphorical, but like to be really pragmatic and acute about it, one very specific example of this would be Priya and Tyler just created the fractal campus program and they were like, hey, we've got this thing that's going really well in Fractal New York. People know about Fractal New York. There are other cities that want to do the same thing. And they're like, oh,
Hmm.
let's have similarly shaped things in London or, Seattle or Vancouver or Porto and Boston. And some of those were already happening. And then they like added structure to it. And like to me, that's on the collective level, the collective starting to like organize in ways that are self-aware or aware of itself that it's not like whether the individual people know about Teapot or the network or Twitter or something. It's like, can we effectively coordinate at a higher scale, basically?
Hmm. Yeah.
Or like you, I mean, you alluded to this earlier, but you just created the Slack for your friends, and I'm a friend of yours, so that's really nice. And it's like it's just instant. It's like, oh, these people already have sufficient context such that having this Slack like is just immediately vibrant and makes sense in a way that like
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd done I think if you'd done that a year or two ago it wouldn't have worked,
No.
you
It
know.
only happened after this vibe camp.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I after this I was like, aha, I have reached some like critical threshold of connections. I have
Right.
done enough introductions, enough people have hit it off. I'm just gonna make like now it's fine.
Uh-huh.
So there's some and like yeah, it's very cool to see Fractal like reach this like next level of um the next fractal layer.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm kind of curious like of other examples of that, but yeah, it's very interesting.
Another one would be I think Rich Bartlett made such an important contribution with this diagram that he has of like scale and length of time. Have you seen this one?
The
Yeah,
hosting
yeah, the
capacity.
hosting one. And then it's so fun. This is so interesting to me. This is fascinating. He has like I forget the diagram, but it's scale up to say like 1,000, I think, and then the time is like 3 months or something. And I asked him this question, I think in February. I was like, well, what's over here? And he was like,
Yeah,
wait, can you rephrase the question? I don't understand the question. And I did ask it in kind of a confusing way, to be fair. But like he was really focused on that part. And then
yeah,
just a few weeks ago, like Priya and several other people
yeah,
were like, wait, but what's over here? And I was like,
yeah,
yes. And like we are like, but what's over here? And my question was like, what's between a congregation or like like those things and a network state is such as you'd call it. I don't even like that term necessarily, but
Mhm.
um, it's like if a network state is that something on the scale of like hundreds of thousands or millions of people, like what's between 5,000 and hundreds of thousands of millions of people. And I think it's important to like figure out
Mhm.
those gradations and explore them.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I'm sort of like, oh, like a larger university. Because like universities are like can be like up to 50,000 people and we're not there yet, you know.
Hmm. Well, and
Um,
they're also like highly interlinked in that like there's collaboration and competition dynamics between Harvard and Yale and Stanford
yeah.
and all of these places such that they are competing, but they also coexist together. And I think that's
Yeah.
happening as well, where like collaboration and competition dynamics are starting to appear at a higher level, not just an individual level. Like
Mhm.
I mean, you could see it as like you and I have been collaborating and competing for years now, and at an individual scale, like you could look at it in that kind of like, I don't think you or I subjectively experience it that way, but
Yeah.
like you could look at it on an evolutionary perspective from that way. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's hopping from individual to like 10 or 100, where it's like,
Yeah.
how is that working?
I definitely, from traveling around, I feel like I've been traveling to different communities for the past year, and it feels like by me traveling around, there's like more awareness of all the other communities that are around. And like
Totally.
I'm at Fractal in New York, but I'm very aware and I want to visit some of these other co-living communities and check them out because I've heard like there's like more awareness happening of like, oh, here are all the other like nodes in the network.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah, very interesting. I'm curious if so I feel like when was our last podcast?
I think it was over the summer last year, maybe.
It was
Yeah.
over I was in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that
Yeah.
one? So it's kind of great that we've been recording these podcasts because
Mm-hmm.
now we have this like record. So I
Mm-hmm.
recorded a podcast with Simon like last year of me being like, I want to go on sabbatical, but I have a job and it's so great. And him being like, do it to follow your soul. And then
Uh-huh.
like
Good on him.
things have really changed for both of us. And like now I'm like, here I am uh out in the ambiguity having a great time. But yeah, I'm almost like okay, like and also the whole world feels like it's really going like it feels to me like 2025 has gone really hard for
Mm.
everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of life and world happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, what will it be like when we have another podcast at some point? Maybe it'll be sooner and we won't see any changes, but like we'll continue to have these and they'll be like, oh wow, like now we can string that content together
Mm-hmm.
and have like I don't know that we have a actual like teapot documentary or anything, but imagine just like collecting all of the podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
essays and like songs and videos and films that have come out and being like this was what this community was up to.
Mm.
um so
That's really been one of the hopes for my podcast in particular is I kind of and I've done this a few times where I've like the first time is typically an interview and it's like let's really see who this person is on their own terms. And then
yeah,
now we can have a conversation that's like given that, it's already on record who you are, we can have a
yeah,
conversation at a higher level and then kind of hopefully revisit every 2, 3, 5, 10 years, like whatever interval ends up making sense. Like,
yeah,
oh, how has this person shifted? How has their project shifted? How's their self-understanding
yeah,
shifted?
yeah. Yeah, and I feel like Visa talks about this with his threads, his like kind of building this big spider web castle of who is he at 30, who is he at 40, what did 40-year-old Visa think of 20-year-old Visa, and what did like, and I love that.
Mm,
And yeah, it's kind of fun to have like it's almost like now we're doing it not just for ourselves, but also like where is the community? Like what
hmm
are they, what is happening at the community level?
hmm
Um, so
I'd love to ask you one more question, just which is if you took that moment in time where we met up in San Francisco and that was our first time meeting in person and we DM'd a little bit before that, but if you took that moment in time and this moment in time where you are now, do you have any
yeah,
sense of what the major like chapters or stages between there and there were for you? Almost uh I mean I am interested narratively, but also like especially developmentally and because I think you have really leveled up quite a bit, like 1,000-fold. Like not like you weren't there before. You were already incredibly impressive to me like back in San Francisco, but like you have gone through specific stages of gaining new skills and capacities such that you like, I mean, it's been a skyrocket, like, so I'm curious how you make sense of that in retrospect, almost like skills wise, or like what skills you developed at which stages.
thank you. It feels really nice to hear because I still feel like I am an evolving
Mm-hmm.
butterfly.
Mm-hmm. Here we are. Same, same.
um yeah, I like was watching this film Waking Life, and at one point it was like these 250-year-old women being like, I thought I was gonna make it at some point, and like it's not, there's no point where you make it, like you're just always like becoming and being. and it was really good for me to watch because I was at the beginning of my like travels to Europe, my spirit distillation arc, and I was like, I'm going to like be at the next level, you know. And it kind of tempered my expectations where I was like, oh, I'm always going to be growing. But yeah, we met for the first time in San Francisco, and I was like, oh, I think we're gonna be friends. And like, look at that. like, I just felt like very instinctually like that. Uh, I felt very comfortable, and like, I remember you were uh kind of sad that
Hmm.
day.
It was. And
But
that chapter in general. Yeah.
yeah, and even so, I just felt like such comfort, and I was like, it just felt like, yeah, it felt okay, even though we like said bye, and I was like, I actually don't know if I'll see him. Like, what? Like, we didn't really, because you're traveling to SF, and but like, I've loved how my friendships have continued to evolve in this space. I think at one point we had a podcast where I was talking about like this feeling of snowballing, and I feel like that still kind of is the case where it's like snowballing and like letting myself snowball and also having a bit of a bird's eye view. Like I'm always like, oh, what's this? What's the state of the system? Like, how are things tying together? Right? Like I noticed myself making friends and I thought, oh, I'm making it's like the network of friends I now have was somewhat intentional, right? I was like, oh, I'm making friends. I made friends in SF, and now I made friends in LA. And I was like, oh, now I made friends in New York. And by the time I hit like a third one, I was like, oh, I could make friends in all of the cities. And like I did have this like recognition of like there could be like a system level thing here. But in terms of stages, definitely the IFS thing, like that was so big. That's like night and day. That was like a big deal.
Hmm.
I think of it as it should be everyone should think of reaching some level of self love as a very important milestone in your life, similar to like graduating college or something.
Hmm.
And
Can you just pause for a second? I really want to feel you having said that. That was so beautiful. Mm. Yeah, amen. Please continue.
yeah, and like IFS is what got me onto Twitter, right? I was like, what is this? I'm curious about this. People are talking about this. Your guide to Twitter is what helped me get on and kind of situated.
Mm.
And then you DM'd me like 2 weeks later, being like, "Hi, I noticed you've been tweeting," and I was like, "Whoa, the guy who wrote the article."
Right?
um, you messaged me very soon after Pranav messaged me, so that was fun. So yeah, the self love arc. I actually, it follows what I'm writing about right now. It was establishing a good relationship with myself and then finding the others. Finding the others for me was somewhat tied to I wanted to host a book club on IFS. Like I had an interest and I wanted to find people who were interested in this too. So finding the others, um, that quickly turned into I had a hosting arc, and I think that also really powered things. Oh, before the hosting arc, I've always been kind of a collector, and I think I collected a lot of people's thoughts,
Mm.
and they liked it. Like I like had good compilations. So like the compilations and the hosting, then I was like really amazed by some kind of feeling of a golden age because I now had friends and I didn't have friends before.
Mm.
Um, and I had like some kind of semblance of community, which I hadn't in my adult life had after college. Um, so then, and then I had a bit of a creative arc too because I wanted to host I always wanted to host these like interesting parties, but I didn't have friends to show up to the parties and blah, blah, blah. So there is that whole arc. But then that flowed into, I don't know. I had life too. Like I had to do a lot of PT. I had a breakup. I had like general things happening. Um, I think the both of those setbacks though, I like sort of tried to, I think I made the best of them. Like I, because of the breakup, I actually ended up socializing really hard, and that's what led to me making friends everywhere. Um, because of the ankle injury, I think I went a lot harder into film. Like I developed new interests and developed like a more well-rounded, like I became more well-rounded. Did I have any big arcs after that? I mean, I made cuties. I made some apps. I made Third Space. Um, that was a really fun thing to do. I don't. I feel like it just has been a combination. I think like part of it was being very um, like ris- uh, I think I like am somewhat excitable and responsive. And then like for example, Monk and Sasha challenged me to make a vlog in
Hmm.
December, and I just like started, and I was like I hated the idea of it, but then I was like okay, I'll like accept the cringe and I'll do it. And I think the consistency also, and like I kind of like it now and it's kind of fun. But um yeah, I guess self-love, friendship, developing a sense of my creativity, and hosting feel like the major things.
Hmm.
And then like taking some uh I feel like I've done some stuff with my outer context too. Like I quit my job. That was scary. And um so I think doing all of this, I also feel like I consistently have sort of like a systems view too, where I'm like aware, like part of why I quit my job is because I felt like I had these little like very loved pets or like islands of like my interests and my life and what gave me joy. And there's like this big boulder in the middle, and it was like work, you know. And the work was like I liked work. That's like the most like I really quite I had like a really great job. I quite liked it. I liked my coworker. I liked so many things about it, but then it was just getting heavier and heavier and getting bigger and trying to like squish out the rest of my interests. And I like accepted that my life would get shakier, and then I just like quit.
Hmm.
But I sat on that, I thought, for like over a year, right? Like Simon and I have the sabbatical podcast from like over a year ago.
Hmm.
Um, so um, I don't know if I guess one other thing I'm doing now is I'm trying to face my fears because I had like a big hosting arc, and I actually feel like I've been hosting a little less because I got a little burnt out, and I
Hmm.
got a little burnt. Like I had a few like mildly traumatizing bad hosting experiences, and um and now I'm kind of working on I'm taking improv classes because I'm like I want to be
Hmm.
more embodied and comfortable on the stage, right? And I want to feel like able to respond to uncertain dynamics. So I'm actually very excited for my improv arc
Hmm.
because I think it's like teaching me all of these skills that I never learned before.
Hmm.
We'll see.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if that was like a satisfying answer,
It was an
but
incredible answer.
I didn't have a
Perfect.
plan. Is like the answer.
I
Like,
think I have this subjective experience of if I ask a question, someone has the answer, or if someone asks me a question, I have the answer. It's like
Mhm.
on a nervous system level, I think we know when someone has the thing that we're looking for, and so you very much answered the question. That's a tangent, but you very much answered the question.
Okay.
Uh, well done, amazing. Um, is there anything in the territory of this that you'd like to talk more about or ask about or anything?
Um, I'm curious if you have any like, well, okay. I want to say like one. I also feel, oh, remember we like walked in the park? I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like the Service Guild and like the Give Your Gift program has been like I've been seeing people grow, right? And that's been so cool to like also know like you are actively nurturing their growth and to see them growing, I think is really powerful. Um, so just like you just I feel like you were like, oh, you've been leveling up, but I'm like, well, look at what you've built. So um yeah, you I feel like um I can't like understate how much like it feels like this has been a really solid and stable community that you've made, like a sub community you've made for people in your life, and they're um it feels stable. Like I pop into Discord, people are in there, they're chatting, there's like a stand up or something, and I'm like, oh wow, like this is really like awesome. So
Thank
kudos.
you. Thank you. The empowerment department is doing well. The Service Guild is doing well. I think part of the reason I asked that question, though, is just like, well, twofold, but one is I'm kind of keeping an eye on. I mean, so a couple years ago we made this like quest map, and we've talked about this before, and it's like that's our current best model of like kind of what a journey like yours looks like and how you evolve over time. And it's like it's a map, so it's not the territory like, but it's a
Mhm.
map. It's a good map, and it's also a beautiful map thanks to Sylvia.
Yeah.
And um, I'm kind of keeping an eye on the people who are like hitting the band together and stages and like or the higher ones is like, well, how did they get there and what's missing or what works for them and how do we get people there more smoothly and because I don't think it's guaranteed necessarily and you've definitely like ascended at the thing that that map is trying to point to like you're done and are doing the thing and so I wanted to like reverse engineer what that's happening and then also just help that happen at higher levels. I think I feel so much fire in my body always of like we could do so much bigger stuff, so much better stuff, and it's happening, and it's a practice for me to have patience and let it unfold
Yeah.
over time. But like this kind of stuff excites me, and I feel like more stuff is becoming possible for all of us, and I'm like trying to figure out what that looks
Hey,
like.
we should have a podcast with our third bloody
We should
blood.
say it. So I know what you're talking about, but you can you tell
Oh,
people
the
who are
audience
listening?
doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, we have like a trio of friends that
Christine invited me to one of her little groups of 3 to 4.
there is no invitation
Uh,
necessary. I just noticed the
uh-huh.
synchronicity happening.
Noticed.
And then I started the group chat. I was like,
Uh-huh.
hey, we're all making like vlogs and chatting about stuff. And I think our combination has a flavor of like accountability and challenging each other, which I
Mm.
like. So like
Mm.
every group has like a different flavor, right? And I
Mm.
think this is what I'm sensing. Like I think maybe like some ambition too, and like fire and yeah,
Mm.
something in
Namely
that.
me, you, and Chic. We're
Yeah.
Vluddies. That's what you called it.
Oh yeah. Vlog buddies. That's
I
what.
think this is so interesting that you like I was like, "Oh, you invited us." And you're like, "Oh, I just noticed." And I feel so acutely, and I suspect you and I will talk more about this, but like such a possibility to I'm certainly already learning from how you're doing things, and I think there's certain blind spots and weaknesses that I have, and that the Service Guild therefore has as like an extension of how I work, of like, oh, we could do better at this, and Christine's really hitting a sweet spot of how this thing kind of thing could work. And then conversely, like um, I think that the playbook that we're running could be helpful to you in certain stages. I had an
I
amazing
would
call
love to. We should do another call where we like give each other suggestions and talk about
Yes,
this. Yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
nerd out.
Yeah, let's do it.
I had such a good call yesterday with someone who I had offered to help, and we got on a call for like 45 minutes. And I mean, I'm doing a lot of kind of coaching calls these days, like basically coaching calls through, it's to me, it's empowerment. But what do I want to say about it? Like, I'm still kind of digesting this, but like basically they were hitting a point in their own trajectory. They have followed their own aliveness and their own path in a very idiosyncratic, particular to them way. And then they've
Mhm.
been hitting obstacles where I'm like, I could immediately diagnose this is what you're having. This is, oh, that's not your problem. This is your problem. And then give them like a very robust playbook of you should do this, 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 and this thing you've never considered before, but this will unblock you. And then I we'll see how that follows, but I'm pretty sure that will like next level them, you know?
Cool. I love that. I think, uh, yeah, I think there's a lot of people who would benefit from that kind of like coaching or
Hmm.
like, feedback of, oh, especially just like unblocking. I
Hmm.
think, okay,
Unblocking.
also I've been thinking a lot about how do we unblock people whose block is like not wanting to see their block, right?
Mm,
Um, or
that's a
like
hairy one.
not being willing to um admit or like accept help or be like maybe like pride, like this kind of area I see a lot and I'm like, I don't know what to do about that one. So um
That is an age-old problem right there.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh, so
huh,
yeah.
huh.
And
Well, to be continued. I think we have so much to talk about here, and I'm so glad. Thank you so much for answering all my questions and
yeah,
for
thank
everything you're
you.
doing.
This was fun.
Yeah. Mm,
Yay.
mm,
Um yeah, and let me know
hmm.
what the posting, whatnot. But thank you so much for uh, chatting with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Christine.